Okay, so we meet again. All right, so then this video is why Bitcoin. This is the most, I repeat again, the most important part. Why Bitcoin? So let's jump ahead. Okay, inflation, the root of all evil. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that part. Difference between paper money, fiat gold, and Bitcoin. All right, blockchain. What is blockchain? So we did talk about that in on the previous video. Not really the whole. I sum up the whole thing, but let's talk about it a bit more in depth. Okay. So the first one, inflation, the root of all evil. I think in any, because money are very important. So it's a language. Okay, so it's a language of exchange. We want to buy something, it's a language of exchange. Whereas if it to us, it does value to it. Okay, but it doesn't, if you think about it again, if it's being issued by and being created out of a thin air, where that value comes from. So we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna explain it. Okay, so central bank, and imagine central bank print 10 million dollar. Okay, so where did it go? Obviously it will go straight to commercial bank, and all this printed money will be used as loan and operations. So what does the job, or the role that commercial bank do is they launder money. Okay, so it's actually against the rule for us individuals to launder money. We call money laundering. But if it is okay for these people, sets of institution, to launder money because they have a license, because the license is called banking license. Okay, so whomever has have this license, you can launder money. Okay, all right. So this money, where does it end up? It will end up to the mass people. But the problem here is there's three kinds of people. Okay, one, the people who don't believe to banks, in banks, or they don't trust banks. Okay, second is the really unfortunate people, the people who doesn't have any passports, birth certificates, or even an ID. Okay, so actually in this world they don't exist. I mean, to us, in our eyes, we look at someone, we don't even know whether he or she or them, either they have any documents with them. So they are still a human being. They still need to eat, to functions, right? Because every single thing are being charged, food, water, every single thing. That's the charge of it. Okay, there's people, humankind, monetize on that. Okay, so this two of this kind of people who doesn't trust, the banks, who doesn't have the facilities or minimum facilities with the bank. What do? They hide the money somewhere. They hide it what, in their homes. They hide it in the attic. They hide it under the bed. They hide it under the pillow. They hide it a lot of places. Just like how this drugs money, like Pablo Escobar does. He, or in the film, a lot of Hollywood movie, where I forgot that movie. What was the name of that movie? Where they knocked down a wall, and inside that wall, the whole wall actually filled with money, and every single piece of that money, there's value to it. So what happened? So obviously, when central bank print that money, they assume that this money will go into circulation and go back up to them. Whereas no, not all printed fiat will go back up, because the two kind of people, and also the bad kind of people. Okay, the third people that I was saying, that I was referring in this, is actually people like us, who either we have limited access to banks, but we still have banks, and I mean account with the banks on our own name, or we have a lot of facilities with the banks. Okay, but these two kind of people really exist. 7 billion of human being, okay, in this world. Half of it doesn't, okay, doesn't or have limited access to banks, okay, and only half of that do have facilities to bank. Okay, so what happened to it? More money are being printed. That's why the value of goods goes up, because goods are the same. If you go to any supermarket, if you really in if you stay if you grew up in one place, you have this common supermarket. I think every single people of every single people out there has like their common place where they shop groceries and all. Okay, so if you go to that place this year, it will be the same the next year, right? You don't see the aisle extended to the top of the roof, right? You don't see the adding more stuff, like adding more aisles of product, because product are the same. Okay, what happened is every single value of paper decrease because of this money is being printed out of thin air. Okay, um, so surprisingly, if you studied economy, okay, the Federal Reserve or the banks have this target called inflation target. How could you possibly have an inflation target? Okay, so that's actually ridiculous, because the value cannot be if it's a value of 10, if it's a value of 10, how could it be inflate and deflate? So that's why this is what I'm trying to explain, the most basic surface of how inflation happen. So that's why Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin, you cannot inflate Bitcoin, because there's a certain amount of Bitcoin will ever exist, and it need to be shared by every single people in the world. And also every single transaction is very transparent. You can actually see it. You cannot actually hide it. You can actually put it away, disconnect it from the network, but the moment you transact, it will goes back into the network. Okay, so I mean, the moment you transact, it will go pass through the network, regardless you use email, whatsoever. Okay, um, it still need to be connected within the network. All right. So differences. Let's talk about differences with these three, which is first paper money, fiat, gold, and also Bitcoin. First, finite supply, physical, safety, backed by fraud, medium of exchange, inflation, absolute right. Okay, so let's start with paper. Paper, finite supply. Nope, it's not. It doesn't have any finite supply. You don't even know how many paper are being printed every single day, how many bonds or bonds that being issued by the Federal Reserve, by any other part of the country or the world. Okay, gold. We know that it's a precious metal, and you need to dig it. Back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you can find a big nugget. Right now, you need to actually dig halfway, like a kilometer down under the earth, and then you will only find an ounce of gold. So actually, gold are limited. Okay, but you don't know how many gold are there. In fact, none of us, I think I can assume that none of us does have a connection with a miner, I mean gold mine or gold miners. I don't think so. And how many gold have been dig up till today, we can know. But how many gold every single day that has been found, we don't even know. Even if they even if that's that even if they tell us or they inform us, like they update us every single time how many gold a day there is, you still have to take a grain of salt because you don't actually see it. Whereas Bitcoin, you can actually see what happening within the network at and a snap of fingers, right? Because it's open. Okay, so Bitcoin, that's a finite supply because Bitcoin only have 21 million. Okay, physical paper money is physical, so it's really hard to actually, if you take it logic, it's really hard to actually follow the money because the money is physical. You cannot even embed it a GPS or no anything. So it's hard to actually see where paper money goes, especially coins, pennies. All right, you don't know how many pennies are there in this world anymore. Okay, gold is also physical. You can actually make jewelry of it, right? And then yes, it is a store of value because it's been thousands of years that people said there's value to it. Okay, and Bitcoin, that's only, I think this is, Bitcoin doesn't have any, you cannot touch it, you cannot even smell it, right? So that's a downside of Bitcoin. Safety, yes, safety is the trouble with fiat because you cannot take, especially when you go abroad. If you have 10,000 US dollar on yourself, you have to actually declare it, right? uh, and also gold, yeah, you also need to actually declare. Or if you're carrying a 1 kilo of gold in your pocket, I think you're gonna pee your pants because people probably gonna know it, right? And it's what you call this, it's hard to move around with huge amount of money. It's tedious. It's prone to be, you are prone to be robbed, and also it's not convenient. Whereas if you have Bitcoin, if you have 100 Bitcoin, 1,000 Bitcoin, no one knows. Okay, backed by, so paper money or fiat are not backed by anything. Okay, they said that is backed by gold. Whereas if you look in the history, in 1933, President Nixon issued that uh, paper US dollar is not being backed by gold anymore. Okay, gold is backed by what? Backed by supply and demand. The less the supply, the higher the demand. The demand is what? The demand is the people, us. A lot of us want to keep gold because there's value to it, and Bitcoin, I mean, and gold have a finite supply, which is we don't know how much. And so also Bitcoin backed by the supply and demand, people wanting it, and also the supply is getting lesser and lesser, and there's only 21 million to be existence. Paper money, are always being counterfeit. Okay, always. Okay, you can, because it's being printed. Okay, gold, also uh, can be what you call this. You can counterfeit gold. You can actually create, uh, uh, take a piece of something looks like a bar, and then you dip it in gold and becomes gold. Unless you actually need to cut it through, and then you need to put the test. So it can be, a fraud can happen there. Whereas Bitcoin, no, because Bitcoin is a code. It exists with mathematics. Um, it is a code that you cannot actually regenerate. You cannot actually recreate it, because the moment you recreate a Bitcoin and then you launch it in the network, it will immediately be kicked or be put out, because never being, it doesn't have any record of it, because you have to remember every single existence of Bitcoin is being recorded, and also every movement of Bitcoin from one wallet to one wallet will be recorded. Okay. Medium of exchange. Yes, paper money is a medium of exchange. Fiat currency is a medium of exchange. Gold, no, it's not a medium of exchange. You cannot buy goods with gold, because it's really hard to actually buy something with gold. Okay. Bitcoin, yes. Why? Because Bitcoin can be, you can fracture it into small tiny bits. All right. Inflation, yes, paper money can be inflated, as we talked in a previous slide. Whereas gold, if it's properly backed by gold, it should not be inflated. Bitcoin, no, it will not be. It will not have inflation, because due to the more people wanting it, because there's 7 billion of human being. I don't know in 100 years from now how many billions are more are going to be born. There's 48 newborn babies every 1 minute throughout the whole world. So newborn babies are going to know how to actually transact, so they need something to use. So at that time they also will demand Bitcoin. So at that time you don't know how many people exist, and there's only such amount of Bitcoin, which is 21 million, to be shared around. Absolute right. So paper money is not absolute right, because the moment the government or the country go bankrupt, like Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Greece, when they go bankrupt, the value of paper money, the currency that being issued by the government, doesn't have any value anymore. Also, your land or house, your land and house, to us, we think it's an absolute right. Yes, it is ours, but it is not what you call resistance to freeze of or taken by it. Cannot it, the moment you go bankrupt, the country or yourself go bankrupt, your house can be confiscated, your land can be confiscated, your money can be confiscated. Also, if the country go bankrupt, the value of your money, it doesn't have any value anymore. The value of your house doesn't have any value anymore. Also, your value of your land doesn't have any value. Why does it have doesn't have any value? Because the moment the whole country the moment the country go bankrupt, every single people in it doesn't have any value. Whatever they hold doesn't have any value. So if whatever they hold doesn't have any value, how could they buy your property, your land, or your house? So because if there is a demand, because people want to buy, but how could they transact? Because there's nothing, the paper that they're holding doesn't have any value to it. So it's not an absolute right. So fiat currency is not an absolute right. Okay. Gold, it is your absolute right, because the moment you go bankrupt or the country go bankrupt, the only tangible asset that you have is gold. All right. Second one come into existence is Bitcoin. Regardless if, let's say, my country or Singapore or my country, Malaysia, doesn't have any value of our currency, or they don't take gold, whatever, I can still transact with Bitcoin, and I can take Bitcoin anywhere in the part of the world. Okay. All right. Blockchain can be used as a medium of exchange, which is Bitcoin can be used as a medium of exchange, a store of value in every digit, using a technology called blockchain. Okay. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is decentralized, do not require any official documents, passport, or birth certificates, low transaction fee. Every transaction is recorded. So low transaction fee, I think on the previous video I already discussed a bit about it. Every transaction, there's a fee, just like but it's not as high as how we normally transact, which is using PayPal or the interbanking within banks, MoneyGram or Western Union and other what's or not. They charge huge amount of fees, which is 15% to 30%, whereas for Bitcoin is very minimal. Okay, and every transaction is recorded in the block, and every single block happen every 10 minutes. Okay, every transaction is date and timestamp and cannot be fake, cannot be confiscated, nor freeze, cannot be inflated. Okay, so it's two things: Bitcoin and blockchain. Bitcoin functions with blockchain. Blockchain is a ledger which is kept by everyone. We can actually keep it. If you become a miner, you're actually helping the system to function in the sense that every single transaction you validate, but it's not going to be you alone. Every single people whomever wants to help the network can actually participate and validate the transaction, and whomever gets to validate the transaction will earn the reward, which is the new Bitcoin, and also every single transaction within the block. All right. Okay, this is basic illustration of how blockchain works. All right, A wants to transfer money to B. So what happened? This online transaction, it's called block. All right. This block will be shown to all who are in the network, and whoever in the network will confirm the transaction, which is the miners. Then this block will be added to the chain where it can only be seen and cannot be modified. So if you can see from the first block, that is 12. Let's say now the supply is 12.5, so within it there's 12.5 in every block. The next block there's 12.5, the next block there's 12.5. So every transaction that happened within this first 10 minutes, let's say, so let's say there's 3,000 transactions within this one block. Within it, the collectively there's transaction fee, right? And within that, all that, when you confirm that transaction, you will get the new issued coins too, which is the 12.5. When the 12.5 combined with the transaction fee add up together, it will need to go into a wallet of whomever validate that transaction. Okay, the moment it go into the miner who actually validate this transaction, this block, a transaction is created. That transaction will be included in the next block. So every history of new coins, so to speak, that just generated by the protocol will actually be recorded. Okay, so you cannot change that. You can only update it. If you want to change that, you need to actually change every single miners or every single people within the network. Okay, in a span of 10 minutes. Okay, all right. So after the block is being verified, it added to the chain, and then it can only be seen. You cannot change it anymore because it's already be updated, and so hence money successfully transferred from A to B. Okay. All right, this Bitcoin Explorer again. So I'm just gonna refresh it because the last slide we did this, but now I'm just gonna refresh it again. So this is, what is this? This is the Explorer. So a network of Bitcoin can be it's transparent, so anything that's happened within the network can actually be seen. So these all the third parties that are doing this, creating this protocol. I mean, creating this Explorer. They took the protocol, they create an Explorer on top of it, okay, to see everything that within the network. So this is the few third parties company. So I can actually click one for you guys. So this is what, like I said again, this is the Explorer. So this is, it never stop. This one, it's timestamp and date stamp. So every single transaction that happened within the network, or one wallet to one wallet, the move, it will actually be, it needed to be recorded. So every single movement of any Bitcoin will actually be recorded. So a transaction happened. Okay, So these are the ones that needed to be confirmed by the miners. Okay, going back, these are the pool of miners. And by the way, again, I'm from Bitclubnetwork, a proud miner of Bitclubnetwork. And also this blocktrail.com is one of the explorer also. It doesn't show the unconfirmed like this one, like this blockchain ones. So blockchain for this is not the technology blockchain. This they took the name and it's derived from the name of blockchain because they took the name to become their company name. Okay, they actually they actually a creator of wallet, one of the leading wallet, famous wallet because of its security, and also it shows data of anything that's happening within the block within the network. And also blocktrail.com is also the same. They also have their own wallet and also they have their own explorer. Alright, this one is also a third party. Let me just close this one. And yeah, so this is a third party. It shows exchanges like Bitfinex, Coinbase, Bitstamp, Bitfly, Gemini, Kraken and all. And also it shows whomever is the miners in the network. So if they say that they are doing mining and not necessarily say that they not a miner, it's just that you still have to take a grain of salt because mining Bitcoin is actually irrelevant now if you're doing mining alone, because it's getting harder and harder to actually do validating of transaction, because the more people, the higher the price goes up, the more people wanted to validate it, and the more people have machines to actually validate, so you're actually in race. So be sure to actually follow me on the next video, the third video, which is I'm gonna talk about Bitclub, why Bitclub, and why the benefit of mining. So I see you guys there. Till then, next video coming up. Take care. Bye.